Chiune Sugihara, The Men Who Defied an Empire Part I, The Ink That Saved Lives, Kaunas, Lithuania, summer 1940. The rain fell steadily over the narrow streets of Kaunas, turning cobblestones into dark mirrors. The city felt trapped between breaths, as if it knew something terrible was approaching but did not yet dare to scream. Inside the Japanese consulate, a man sat alone at his desk. Chiune Sugihara dipped his pen into ink and stared at a blank sheet of paper. Outside the iron gates, hundreds of people waited in silence, men in worn coats, women clutching children, families who had already lost their homes, their countries, and soon, if nothing changed, their lives. They were Jewish refugees, and the paper in front of Sugihara could mean the difference between life and death. 1. A diplomat, not a hero. Sugihara was not a soldier. He had no weapon. No army. No authority to wage war. He was a diplomat. A servant of the Japanese Empire born in a small village in Japan, Chiune had been expected to become a doctor. Instead, he chose languages, diplomacy, and foreign service. He spoke Russian fluently, understood Europe better than most men in Tokyo, and believed, dangerously, that duty and conscience were not always the same thing. Now, in 1940, Europe was collapsing, Poland had fallen, France was broken, the Nazis were hunting Jews with increasing efficiency, and Kaunas had become a dead end. 2. The people at the gate at dawn. Sugihara opened the consulate window. What he saw froze him in place. Hundreds had become thousands, families slept on the ground. Children clutched papers. Old men stared at the building like it was a temple. Mothers whispered prayers in languages Sugihara barely understood, Hebrew, Yiddish, Polish. A consulate assistant approached him nervously. Consul Sugihara, they are asking for transit visas. Sugihara already knew, transit visas through Japan meant escape, through the Soviet Union, across Siberia, by ship to safety. But Tokyo had made its position clear. No visas without proper documents. No exceptions. No compassion. Sugihara had already sent 3 cables to Tokyo. All 3 replies said the same thing. No. 3. The choice that night, Sugihara sat with his wife Yukiko in their small apartment above the consulate. They will die, he said quietly. Yukiko poured tea, her hands steady. If you help them, what happens to us? Sugihara didn't answer immediately. He looked at his children asleep in the next room. I will lose my career, he said finally, maybe worse. Yukiko nodded, then she said something that would echo through history. If you do not help them, how will you face yourself? Sugihara closed his eyes. Outside, a child began to cry. 4. The first visa. The next morning, Sugihara returned to his desk. He picked up his pen, and he began to write. 1 visa, then another, his hand cramped, ink stained his fingers, sweat soaked his collar. He wrote names he could barely pronounce, stamped documents that were technically illegal, signed papers that violated direct orders from Tokyo. By noon, his assistant whispered, "Sir, this will destroy you." Sugihara did not stop writing. Then let it destroy me, he said calmly, but not them. 5. 3 weeks of ink and blood for 18 hours a day. Sugihara wrote. He skipped meals. He slept at his desk. His hands swelled and bled. Refugees passed visas through the crowd like holy relics. Some kissed his hands. Others collapsed in tears. 1 man grabbed Sugihara's sleeve. You are saving my children, he sobbed. You are saving the future. Sugihara gently pulled his arm free. I am only doing what I should. By the end, he had issued over 6,000 visas, enough to save more than 10,000 lives. 6. Departure. In August 1940, the Soviets ordered the consulate closed. As Sugihara boarded the train, refugees ran alongside the carriage. Thank you. You are an angel. We will never forget. From the train window, Sugihara continued writing visas, throwing them onto the platform until the train pulled away. His last words to the crowd, please forgive me. I cannot write anymore. Chiune Sugihara, Part 2. Inch. The Visas of Conscience. Kaunas, Lithuania, July 1940. The line outside the Japanese consulate grew longer every morning. It began at dawn, men in worn coats. Women clutching children. Old rabbis leaning on canes. Students with hollow eyes and trembling hands. They stood silently, As if noise itself might shatter what little hope they had left, inside the consulate, Chiune Sugihara stood at the window, watching them. They did not shout, they did not beg, they waited. Sugihara felt something tighten in his chest. 1. Orders from Tokyo. 3 cables lay on his desk. All carried the same message from the Japanese Foreign Ministry. Request denied. Follow procedure. Do not issue visas without proper documentation. He read them slowly, carefully, as if the words might change if he stared long enough. They did not. A junior diplomat cleared his throat behind him. Consul Sugihara. Tokyo has been very clear. Sugihara nodded. Yes. They have. He folded the cable neatly and placed it aside. Outside, a child began to cry. A mother hushed him quickly, pressing his face into her coat. Sugihara closed his eyes. 2. The delegation that afternoon, representatives of the Jewish refugee community, were allowed inside. They removed their hats. One of them, a man named Zwartendijk, spoke first. Consul Sugihara, he said quietly, we know you have received orders. Sugihara gestured for them to sit. Yes, he said. I have. Another man leaned forward, voice breaking, if we stay here, we will die. No drama. No exaggeration, just fact. Sugihara looked at their faces, intelligent, exhausted, terrified. He had negotiated with Soviet officials, read intelligence reports, dealt with spies. This was different, this was human. How many? Sugihara asked. Zwartendijk swallowed. Thousands. The room fell silent. Sugihara stood and walked to the window again. The line outside stretched around the corner now. Thousands. 3. The decision that night, Sugihara did not sleep. He sat at the small table in his apartment, a single lamp illuminating the room. His wife Yukiko poured tea, watching him carefully. You are thinking of disobeying, she said. Sugihara nodded. If I follow orders, he said slowly, these people will be sent back. To Germany. To Poland. Yukiko sat across from him. And if you disobey? I will lose my career, he replied. My pension. Possibly my freedom. She looked at him steadily. And if you do nothing? Sugihara did not answer at first. Then, quietly, I will lose myself. Yukiko reached across the table and took his hand. Then you already know what you must do. 4. The first visa. The next morning, Sugihara arrived early at the consulate. He sat at his desk, opened the registry book, dipped his pen in ink, and wrote the first visa, name, date, signature. His hand did not shake. A clerk stared at him in disbelief. Sir. Tokyo. I am aware of Tokyo, Sugihara said calmly. Bring in the next applicant. The clerk hesitated, then obeyed. When the first refugee received the visa, he stared at the paper as if it were unreal. This is real, he whispered. Sugihara nodded. Yes. Go. Quickly. The man bowed repeatedly, tears running down his face. Outside, the line stirred. Hope moved like electricity through the crowd. 5. Writing against time. From that day on, Sugihara wrote visas from morning until late night. By hand, every single one. His fingers cramped. Ink stained his sleeves. His eyes burned. He refused to stop. Sir, you need rest, a clerk pleaded. There will be time to rest later, Sugihara replied. There is no time now. He signed hundreds, then thousands. Each visa meant a route through the Soviet Union. Each signature meant a family might live. Outside, rumors spread. The Japanese consul is issuing visas. He doesn't care about orders. He is saving us. Sugihara heard the whispers and felt the weight grow heavier. He was no longer just a diplomat. He was a lifeline. 6. The price of mercy. Tokyo sent another cable. Stop immediately. You are exceeding authority. Sugihara read it once, then he continued writing. He knew now there would be consequences, but every time doubt crept in, he looked at the line outside, thinner now, slowly moving forward, and he kept going. 1 evening, he collapsed into a chair, hand trembling. Yukiko massaged his fingers gently. How many today? She asked. Sugihara smiled weakly. I stopped counting. 7. The train station. In late August 1940, the Soviets ordered the Japanese consulate to close. Refugees gathered at the train station as Sugihara prepared to leave Kaunas. Even there, On the platform, he continued signing visas, leaning out of the train window, passing documents down to desperate hands. The whistle blew, the train began to move. Sugihara leaned out one last time and shouted, "Please forgive me. I can do no more." The refugees bowed deeply as the train pulled away. Many would survive because of him. Chiune Sugihara, Part 3, After the Visas, The Price of Conscience, Kaunas, Lithuania, Autumn 1940. The train station was quiet again, too quiet. The crowds that once filled the streets outside the Japanese consulate were gone. No more desperate knocking on the doors. No more cries in dozens of languages. No more shaking hands pressing papers through the gate, only fallen leaves, cold wind, and silence. Chiune Sugihara stood at the window of the now empty consulate, looking down at the street where thousands of lives had once waited for his signature. His hand still ached. Not from fatigue, from memory. He knew the numbers now, more than 6,000 visas, entire families, children who would never know his name, people who would live because he chose to disobey. But salvation had a cost, and the bill was coming due. 1. Departure without honor. Tokyo's order was clear: close the consulate. Leave immediately. No congratulations. No acknowledgement. No questions about the refugees, only silence. As Sugihara packed his belongings, his wife Yukiko folded clothes quietly. "They will punish you," she said at last. Sugihara nodded. "I know." "Do you regret it?" He paused, holding his consular stamp in his hand, the same stamp that had changed history. "No," he said softly. "Not even for a moment." At the train station, as he prepared to leave Kaunas, something unexpected happened. Refugees appeared again, not in thousands, in dozens. They lined the platform in silence. One man stepped forward and bowed deeply. "You saved my children," he said. Another kissed Sugihara's hand. A woman wept openly. Sugihara stood frozen, overwhelmed. "I didn't do anything special," he said quietly. "I only did what I should." The train whistle screamed. As the doors closed, refugees ran alongside the moving train, shouting words Sugihara would never forget. "We will live because of you." The train pulled away. Sugihara sat down slowly, his face pale. He knew this was the last time he would ever see them. 2. The long road east. Sugihara's journey took him through Berlin, Prague, Bucharest, Moscow, cities tightening under the grip of war. Everywhere he went, the world was closing, borders hardening, fear spreading like a disease. In Berlin, he saw Nazi banners hanging proudly from buildings. In Moscow, suspicion followed every foreigner like a shadow. By 1944, Sugihara and his family were in Romania. Then the war caught up to them. The Soviets arrived, and with them, captivity. 3. Prisoner of the USSR, Sugihara was arrested by Soviet forces and sent to an internment camp. Not as a hero. Not as a diplomat, just another foreigner. The camp was cold, food was scarce, days blurred into each other. He shoveled snow, carried logs, waited. Years passed. Other prisoners asked him what he had done before the war. "I was a diplomat," he answered. "Why are you here, then?" Sugihara looked down. "Because I followed my conscience." Some laughed, some nodded silently. At night, lying on wooden planks, he wondered, did anyone survive? Did the visas work? Was it enough? He had no answers. 4. Returned to a different Japan. In 1946, Sugihara was finally released. He returned to Japan thinner, older, quieter. Japan itself was unrecognizable. Burned cities, broken pride, an occupied nation trying to rebuild its soul. Sugihara reported to the Japanese Foreign Ministry. He was not welcomed. No medals. No praise, only a short statement: "You are dismissed." Official reason: downsizing. Unofficial reason: Lithuania, the visas, the disobedience. Sugihara bowed and left without protest. That night, Yukiko found him sitting alone. "They erased you," she said. He smiled faintly. "They can erase my career," he replied. "They cannot erase what was done." 5. A life in silence. For decades, Sugihara lived in obscurity. He worked small jobs, sold light bulbs, did translations, struggled to support his family. No one knew his story. Children in Israel grew up, families multiplied, entire bloodlines existed because of one man in Kaunas, and he lived quietly, unnoticed, almost forgotten, until, one day, a knock came at his door. 6. The knock. A man stood outside. Middle-aged, well-dressed. "My name is Moshe," he said, my parents escaped Lithuania in 1940. Sugihara's hands trembled. I am alive, the men continued, because of you. More came, letters, visitors, stories. Slowly, the truth surfaced. Thousands had survived, and they had been looking for him. Chiune Sugihara, Part 4. The price of doing what was right, Japan, late 1940s. The war ended not with celebration, but with silence. Chiune Sugihara stepped off the train onto a platform that looked familiar, yet foreign. Japan was defeated. Cities were burned. The empire he once served no longer existed. The flags were gone. The certainty was gone, only memory remained. He carried a small suitcase. No medals. No honors. No recognition. Just papers, clothes, and the weight of thousands of faces he would never forget, men, women, children, hands pressed against the glass of a consulate window in Kaunas. 1. The government's answer in 1947, Chiune Sugihara was summoned to the Japanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The room was sterile. Wooden table. 2 officials. No smiles. One of them cleared his throat. Mr. Sugihara, your services are no longer required. Chiune bowed politely. I understand. The second official spoke, colder. You disobeyed direct orders, you acted independently, you embarrassed the ministry. Chiune lifted his eyes. I saved lives. Silence. That was not your decision to make, the official replied, and just like that, after years of service, after loyalty, after risking everything, he was dismissed. No trial. No debate. No thanks, just a stamped document and a closed door. 2. A life in the shadows. Sugihara struggled to survive. He sold light bulbs. He worked as a translator. He moved his family constantly. He lived modestly, sometimes barely. His children asked, Father, why don't you work for the government anymore? Chiune would smile gently, because sometimes, he said, doing the right thing costs you your place. He never spoke publicly about Kaunas, never wrote memoirs, never asked for recognition. To the world, he had vanished. 3. The people who remembered, but somewhere else, far from Japan, people remembered. In Israel. In the United States. In Canada. In Europe, families told their children, a Japanese diplomat saved us. He wrote visas when no one else would. He ignored orders. Survivors searched for his name, and eventually, they found him. 4. Recognition at last. In 1985, more than 40 years after Kaunas, Chiune Sugihara received a letter. It was from Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust Memorial. You are hereby recognized as righteous among the nations. When the news reached him, Chiune was old, his health was failing. A journalist asked him, why did you do it? Sugihara answered quietly, I may have disobeyed my government, but if I hadn't, I would have disobeyed God. That was all. 5. Too late, but not forgotten. Japan offered a quiet apology. No ceremony. No public acknowledgement at the time. The visas he signed were now called visas for life. More than 6,000 people directly saved, over 40,000 descendants alive today because one man chose conscience over career. Chiune Sugihara died in 1986. Not as a diplomat, not as a hero, but as a man who did the right thing when the world was doing wrong. Epilogue, a name that endures today. His name is carved in stone. Schools teach it, museums preserve it, children learn it, not because he fought. Not because he commanded armies, but because he wrote. 1 visa at a time. 1 signature after another, until his hand cramped, until the train pulled away, until the very last moment. Chiune Sugihara proved something simple and terrifying. One ordinary man with a pen can stand against evil, and sometimes, that is enough.